I mean, you could literally hear their screams from the apartment complex that I lived at. I mean, just horrifying. Yeah, I would venture to say that the kids are being tortured. Cub Scouts, my dad ended up, like totally like wanting to run the whole show, and be a part of just the whole thing, right? And he ended up pissing off all these parents on many levels to where they kind of pushed him out. And it might have been partially because he was kicking my ass. One time I went to school with his handprint on my face and had to make up a story how we were playing karate or something and it was all an accident. Yeah, basically I was just flipping. He was beating the shit out of me with the belt and I just started like losing my mind and flipping out. And then he just hit me in the head, Smith. That probably knocked me out or something. But anyway, so there was something weird going on, like a teacher, like my dad knew a teacher or something, or was pretending to know a teacher. Or I really don't know. But there was and like when he would drop me off for visitations, he would say shit like, oh yeah, you never remember pain. You don't remember anything bad, and only good stuff you don't remember, and all this shit. Like, I don't remember getting shot, and that didn't hurt, and I don't remember the pain from my life. Like, basically, like, don't say anything to anybody about me kicking your ass type shit, I mean, that was kind of the whole flavor to that statement, I believe. It was like, we moved into a neighborhood and a school, that had a bunch of people that were already there, already going to school there, and already doing the Cub Scout things. And then we show up, and then it's like my dad just wants to run the show and just do all this stuff, and like totally alienates, like, so then this other kid's dad takes over and just basically just drives me out, just like go away type of thing. And that was actually in the Boy Scouts. I think I progressed all the way up through the Cub Scouts and the Weeblos, and then Boy Scouts. I think I don't know, maybe yeah. And then I got driven out by this other kid's dad. And some of the notable things from the scouting adventure were just like the craziness. They would just have thousands of kids in some field, in some park, in some time of the year when it's just raining and it's just a mud to insanity. It's like it had absolutely nothing to do with camping, nothing to do with it. It's just like surviving mud apocalypse, I guess you get the takeaway from that. One time we went on a camping trip to like somebody's pasture, like somebody knew somebody, oh, you can camp out in the back of my pasture, and I actually wet the bed. I was not a bed wetter, but I guess I just drank too much the night before and it got really cold and I didn't get up and go take a leak, and I just pissed there in the tent, all over the tent and my sleeping bag, and maybe even other kids' sleeping bags as well, because the piss like flowed on out. But yeah, hopefully I don't run out of gas. So that didn't really go well for my scouting career. It just kind of further alienated me from the crowd. And then one of the kids at one point, I'm just kind of lumping together stories from my grade school years at this North Oak Grove now. Like, they're just all stories from that time. There's not any necessarily chronological order to these stories that are popping up in my head about that school. Just to put that little caveat in there. So I had a dog. His name was Max. He was a German short hair pointer. I didn't have him for long. He used to escape the backyard, and I hit him with a stick probably way too much. I think probably because I was getting hit, so I was hitting the dog. And when I went to live with my mother, the dog got given away to somebody else, so I didn't really get to live the life out with my dog. It was really my dad's. He's a bird dog. My dad was a big time hunter, fisherman, like that was his thing, and probably was his thing because it's just food. Like literally, like you can, if you go get a deer, you got meat in the freezer for a long time. If you get a deer and an elk and you shoot some birds, get some birds, whatever, you know, that can just totally, and then you got your mom that has, you know, these huge gardens and cans everything, you know, so I don't know if my dad was on food stamps or not. He was into the hunting and the fishing and big time, even to where when I was a kid he was a fisherman, and then like when he got custody of me, so he couldn't really do the fishing thing anymore, and so he took a job at a company that installed conveyor belts, and it was just one of those jobs where he was laid off a lot of the time and wasn't working, so there had to have been some kind of welfare or something going on there. I have to imagine, just based on the fact that, you know, I was a, you know, single parent, you know, anyway. Yeah, so more stories from the time of the grade school. I remember after my dad was out at the Scouts, they had we had a Pinewood Derby contest every year where you'd get a block of wood, and you can look up YouTube videos, like Mark something did a whole thing on these things, so they're still doing it. My dad proceeded to build my car for me to the point where it was just ridiculously obvious that a little kid didn't make this car. And, you know, I always wonder, like, what my dad was thinking. I mean, he honestly, I think he just was like, you people or something, you know, like, haha, you know, like, but of course, you know, it got me disqualified out of, like, the entire thing, and I was, like, working on it myself, and he just kind of took it over and just kind of did it, and that was just kind of it. So, I remember going camping and up at this lake, Marion Lake. We went there a few times, and it was like a 2-mile hike to get up to this pretty big lake, tons of trout in it, and we were going up there and it was still frozen, so I, you know, part of it, not the whole thing, like half of it, we blow up our raft and go out in there and knock a hole in the ice and pull up in the ice and fish, and literally I think that was like, other than just some corn on the cob or something like that we took, potatoes probably, took some potatoes, some corn on the cob or something like that, and tin foil, and then like salt, pepper maybe, and Like, that was it. We just go camp for a few days, catching fish, eating fish. Lots of camping when I was a kid, and that was a big thing. We were always camping. It was probably because it was just a cheap, you know. My dad owned all the camping gear, so just get in the car. Just gas money at that point. Gas back then was like 25 cents a gallon. So life with my dad was, he was a super early to bed, early to rise. He would, and you know, I was always amazed at how fast he could go to sleep. Well, in hindsight, it was probably because he was passing out drunk at like 9 o'clock at night. Because the last time I saw him, and I asked him, you know, he was like, oh, he points at, you know, I was having a beer at the time. He was like, pointed at my beer and was like, yeah, it's what ruined my life. And, you know, so he's just a alcoholic. I think he was a stoner too. I'm pretty positive he's a stoner. At some point he was smoking weed. I remember being in the apartment, so we're not quite in the house yet, and it being, you know, summertime, and I had a bedtime, and the bedtime really didn't change depending on anything, and I would literally be in bed, and it would be sunny out, and the kids would be outside my window playing. And this apartment complex was like at the end of a street, and it had some horrors going on in it. There was these kids that lived on this big chunk of property that they lived in like these little shacks, and their dad was just this little skinny guy with an afro, super evil. I mean, these kids were just incessantly beat like insanely. I just knew so many kids growing up that were just beat up all the time, and kids would come to school with, you know, finger braces because their fingers were broken, black eyes, and swollen noses. I mean, parents, you know, this is a time when the American soul had been devastated by Vietnam. It was a lot of kids being beat back in the 70s and 80s. I remember this from grade school quite a bit. It was just the way it was. Maybe there were some kids that never got beat up, but I doubt it. Even my mom beat me up. I remember making my ear bleed one time. She pulled on it so hard. Yeah, it's just like people beat their kids. So I would have to say that's one of the major reasons why I have never wanted to have a kid, was because I don't want to beat a kid. That would be traumatic to me. I'm selfish. So anyway, back to the crazy world of so I lived on this street, and these kids had this huge yard and had these huge laurel bushes that were like huge laurel bushes, huge ivy trees, ivy bushes, not ivy, holly, maybe, that were hollowed out on the inside. So there's like just these natural forts all over these kids. So they had like literally the coolest place to play, but they were always grounded or being beat up, or I mean, you could literally hear their screams from the apartment complex that I lived at. I mean, just horrifying. I would venture to say that the kids are being tortured. I mean, and one of the games I used to play in all these woods and little things was me and the kids was setting booby traps for each other. So we'd get a hold of some fishing line and bend trees back and like literally I got myself, like I was running through and forgot I had set a booby trap, and really didn't even booby trap me the way I thought it was going to booby trap me. Really what booby trapped me was the fishing line just basically clotheslined me. Nothing else happened. But yeah, strange kids booby trapping the bushes all around their houses. These were the types of games poor kids played. Another time, we were kind of down the street, and there was several of us, and there was this old lady, the old lady witch, and she had a Hispanic dude that was like her helper, maybe her boyfriend, don't really know. There's a Hispanic dude that lived there. And they had just all kinds of freaking junk. I mean, it was just like stuff piled everywhere. Well, they had cases of ceramic tile. And to a bunch of kids, that looked like garbage. And there was this giant concrete driveway, cement driveway. So it was like old crazy lady's house, creek, and then the neighbors, and one of the kids lived there, and there was a driveway. So we were taking the tiles and we were smashing them, and they would blow up. And we did quite a bit. We made a huge fucking mess. And all of a sudden, this Hispanic dude comes running and, I'm gonna get you kids or whatever, and we run, and I go and crawl underneath this deck to somebody's porch, get all dirty, but I didn't get caught. But then they just started telling our parents, and they just accused like every single kid they had ever seen, like kids that weren't even there. Like the two that were always getting their ass kicked like crazy viciously, like they weren't even there, and they got their asses kicked for it. So my dad kicked my ass for it too. The neighborhood I lived at was kind of peculiar in the way that it had I think like an old railroad track thing going down. The tracks had been taken out, so now it was just like this path. And there was a path, and there was a creek too. A creek that could get pretty substantial during certain times of the year. And we had to cross this creek to get to school, walking to school. So, like, literally, like, the school was like here, and we were like, I was like here, and this was this big road, and this was this, next to it, over behind a row of houses, was the old railroad tracks, and the creek was right next to that. So jumping the creek and getting across the creek and building bridges to get across the creek and dealing with the creek and being on this old back road, creepy road, like this was normal. Like, and it was, I mean, kind of walking down these, there was a lot of railroad tracks in that area that I was walking around as a kid. Jumping trains too. Later on in like junior high, I would jump on trains and catch them. We'd literally go out behind the junior high school, I'm cutting ahead now, and jump on trains before school for fun.